Now the Lions going on the road, 7-point underdog in San Francisco. Semi, I get the feeling that the Lions, again, are going to be a pretty trendy underdog in this game off of what we saw the 49ers do last weekend.
Psychologically, though, I am hesitant about the Niners because on this program last week, I said the Niners will score at will, and that was not correct. So I think Niners are the right side. Niners are probably going to win this game. They're a 7-point favorite. But I don't know, Will. We had a lot of variations of Niners bets, and it was sort of like that scene in Space Jam when Charles Barkley gets his talent zapped out of him by the alien. That's what happened to their offense when Debo got knocked out. And it took them almost 3 whole quarters to find their mojo. I don't want to put too many eggs in the basket from last week, but when you lay 7 with a team that almost lost outright, or lay 9 rather, it's psychologically hard to move on and want to lay 7 again. I mean, I don't know if that makes sense to you, but that's sort of where I'm at right now.
Yeah, and their numbers without Debo, with and without, are just, there's so much of a difference. And look, it was not pretty last week. Not only did they not cover, not only did they almost lose, they should have lost. I mean, Love got a bad spot on one of those quarterback sneaks. Green Bay had 2 long drives to start the game that got inside the 10, and you look up and it's only 3-0, where it could have easily been 10-0, 14-0. I thought after that long Jones run late in the game that this game was about to be over. So the 49ers very fortunate here. And I was scoffed at by Samuel last week when I said, let's maybe take a look at the 49ers a little differently because all of their big wins have not aged well. There was scoffing. There was other sort of things. But look, I wasn't impressed with the 49ers defense. Purdy was terrible, and I love Purdy. I just can't get there with Detroit because I look at yards per play allowed to the Rams, 7.7. Yards per play allowed to the Bucks, almost 7 again. That's in Detroit. That's at home with the crowd noise, the dome. Now you're going outdoors against a 49ers team that has much more weapons. I don't know if I can get there. I don't know that I want to lay 7, especially Shanahan is so conservative. What he did before that, at the end of the first half, was one of the more ridiculous things I've ever seen in my life. I still can't believe what I watched with that. So I'm really back and forth on the spread. I'll probably end up, like, if I had to make one bet right now in the game, and I haven't because I have futures at work with, the NFC to win the Super Bowl, Baltimore, San Francisco exacta, I probably just go back to the well and play San Francisco team total over 28.5. It didn't get there last week, even though Dre Greenlaw tried to get me home. I think he's still in San Francisco running around trying to get in the end zone. He was just running like a chicken with his head cut off, looking for somebody to lateral it to it. It was just a wild sequence that would have swung the cover, the spread, the total, everything. So I'm really back and forth. I would play San Francisco team total over. I just can't get there with this Detroit defense. Detroit is good against the run, which gives them a chance, but that secondary is so bad, Jeff. I don't know if you have a play on this game, and I'm curious what you think, because Detroit's offensive line is banged up, and that could be a story here where San Francisco can finally get some pressure.
Yeah, there's so much to get to in this game. A lot of comments that you guys made, I've sort of echoed in my game preview. The thing about Brock Purdy that's really tough, right, is that he obviously had a great season, but when little things aren't exactly right, he's a different guy. You mentioned Deebo Samuel being out. He completes 10% less passes. He throws more interceptions. They score less points per game by far when he's not in the game. There's 4 games this year. He missed a few, and then obviously he played 10 snaps or less in that last game. Guys, when the ball is wet, Brock Purdy can't throw the football. Like, all these little things that when it's not exactly perfect, the offense is not the same. And so if Debo doesn't play, which seems like he's not going to play, does this offense change? Does Brock Purdy change? Does he play worse than last week? But as you guys have said, the Lions' pass defense is atrocious. They have allowed 140 yards plus to a wide receiver in 5 straight games now. 5 straight games. Mike Evans had 148 yards. I think we're all over his over that game.
Do you know who had the highest wide receiver yardage total in the divisional round?
Oh, no. Did he?
Yeah. You were a week early.
But I did take Baker Mayfield most passing yards in the divisional round. So I was covered there. So I have Brandon Ayuk over, I think it's 80.5 receiving yards in this game. I think he's obviously got to target him. I mean, look, the trends are holding true with the Lions. Look, the offensive line you mentioned, Ragnow, I think, is going to play. He's played all season, really beat up. That offensive line is really good. The Niners' pass rush is not as good right now. The Niners can't stop the run, guys. I mean, if the Lions commit to running the football like the Packers did, I think this game is going to be really close. They can keep running the football. It takes obviously wind out of the Niners' sails as their pass rush, their pass defense, and also they get the ball less on offense. I also like, guys, Jahmyr Gibbs over its 14.5 for longest rush of the game. The Niners have allowed a rush of 16 yards or more now to 5 running backs over the last 4 games. I think there's certain places you can wager on this game that aren't the total or the side.
Agreed. Now, as we talked about before the group chat, I'm on Brock Purdy over 272.5. And this is a Lions defense. You allowed 349 to Baker, 367 to Stafford. I think even if Deebo Samuel doesn't play, I think they have enough weapons to go around. You mentioned about their ability to stop the run, which probably means you're going to get a lot of passes to Christian McCaffrey out of the backfield. So over 272.5 is a play for me with Purdy, because I think too, with the weather being okay. It's interesting though, because he threw the ball. Okay, remember that game in Philadelphia where the weather was kind of crappy and it was misty and rainy? Like, he was okay that day.
It was the Browns game,
but the Browns game, he struggled, and the Browns defense got after him. But I think the fact that they kind of survived that game last week, and he had that great final drive, and I think maybe it might be one of those like exhale moments. And so I like I said earlier, I like the over 272.5 with Purdy. Would you play Deebo if he's not 100%, Jeff?
For props?
Well, no. If you're the 49ers.
Yeah, I think you sort of have to, because you need to get to the Super Bowl, and then you have 2 weeks off. Like, if he contributes enough, I think you have to play him. And the question, I think, is can he do that? One thing Will brought up that's very interesting about this game that it's hard to sort of handicap.
Will brought something interesting up?
It's one time all season. It's happened once.
About time.
The coaching aggressiveness, right? Like, Dan Campbell is always aggressive. He's going for it. He's pushing the limit. He's going to go for it on a 4th down. He's going to go for 2 when he's supposed to. He's going to follow the math. And Shanahan is the exact opposite. He plays for field goals. He plays for conservative. He plays for punts. He doesn't go for it on a 4th down as much. I think that's a big part of this game. Now, it could hurt the Lions if they're 0 for 3 on 4th down and fail on 2-point conversion. They lose this game and don't cover. But if they are more aggressive than San Francisco, they go into the game thinking to themselves, we're going to play aggressive. Shanahan goes into a game thinking to himself, I don't know, field goals and run the football and let's be conservative. The mindset like that, Sammy, does that change the way you handicap a game?
No, because it can work both ways. I mean, Dan Campbell could do something irrevocably stupid. I'm still waiting for it to happen. It hasn't really happened yet because they've been decided favorite.
It happened last week.
Yeah.
It did.
I mean, not challenging that Baker play.
Or not running out the clock properly.
Here's what I'm thinking about, and I saw this from Jason Logan on Covers. I don't know if you guys have seen this. It's the numbers of Detroit's offense inside and outside. So indoors this year, the Niners, or the Lions rather, are averaging 30 points per game, 30. When the Lions play outside, that number goes down to 17.8. Now, they've only played 5 games outdoors the entire season. When they went on the road this year, they played against Vegas, they played at Minnesota, they played in New Orleans. Like, they played in a lot of indoor tracks this year. And I think that the GM there in Detroit did a perfect job of building that team for that stadium with the turf, the fast track. Obviously, the crowd gets into it. They love their football in Detroit when the team is good, which is once every 50 years. But they have not been efficient. They have not been productive when they're outside. And I don't know. I mean, it's not a big sample size because they've only played like 20 football games this year. But the offense is a lot different when they're outside. And they're outside this week. And I don't know how much weight to put in that because it is 70 degrees and 2% chance of rain. But statistically, they are a lot better at home when they are on the road. And that has to be accounted for to some extent.
Yeah, it's hard when it's 70 and sunny to make the weather, that the venue, too much of your handicap. But I agree, like both quarterbacks, you worry about playing in weather. So if we did get rain, which doesn't look like we're going to, it would change it and maybe lend you towards an under. But again, it's going to be 65, 70 degrees and sunny. So I can't put too much into my handicap. But I think Jeff mentioned Campbell. There's so much variance with him. If you remember last year, they played in Green Bay, Week 18 on Sunday Night Football. They'd just been eliminated. They played that game fast and loose. I think they faked the punt. They ran a hook and ladder to clinch it. they're going to go into this game knowing they are outmanned, overmatched. They can't just play it straight up. So he might do anything. I mean, he might go for it on 4th down in his own territory. He might surprise onside kick. He might go for 2 I have no idea what Campbell is going to do. It introduces so much variance to it where, he could steal a possession along the way. I think that's something to watch here with Campbell where, he could really go into this game. It's house money. He's not the better team. I think he's going to be ultra, ultra aggressive.
We've had our fun here, kind of making fun of Campbell and the kneecaps and going. But you know what? As a head coach, your number one job is to build a team and a staff around you, and
your number one job is to cover,
win, and make everybody. Oh, and he does that pretty damn well, by the way.
He does, exactly.
Aren't they the number one cover team since? And
he's good as a dog too. Yeah.
But it's like all this like stuff that we kind of laugh at and make fun of. Somehow it all works. He's put together a good staff. He's got these guys believing. So while he's not the greatest X and O coach, and maybe some of these decisions don't necessarily go, maybe he's the guy who's sitting at the blackjack table who he's gonna hit on 17, thinking that there's a 4 coming out in the deck. He might, but as a head coach, he's a damn good head coach because he's put his team together in his mold, and he has that team believing they could achieve things that maybe they didn't necessarily think that they could do. So we've had our fun making fun of them, but the fact that they're here, I don't think this is a team that's kind of built for the short term either. Like I think this division could be really, really interesting for the next few years to come with the team that the Lions have, the Bears now with all those picks, Green Bay on the up. I didn't mention Minnesota. Well, you got anything to say about the Vikings? Are they going to be in the play?
No, I don't think so. It is a good division. But you mentioned Campbell, like we all just kind of make fun of him. And look, he's in the Final Four with the Lions, so give him credit. He's a guy who played under Parcells. He was Sean Payton's right-hand man. So I think maybe he's a little better, a little smarter than we think. Granted, he didn't run out the clock properly last week, which was one of the more insane things ever. And Bowles not calling the timeout, which was even more ridiculous. I'll say this too about Goff. People treat Goff or refer to Goff like he's Zach Wilson or something. This is a guy who went to a Super Bowl, and you could say it was all McVay. He was down 15 in New Orleans that year, brought them to the Super Bowl, won a playoff game in another year. I mean, for a guy that nobody seems to like, I think he's won 5 or 6 playoff games now. I mean, Goff is not that bad a player. Again, when you go outdoors, it's cold, he's under pressure, he can fold a little bit, but like you could do worse than Goff in a year in a league where nobody can play quarterback. Goff's really not that bad.
Bear Bets full episodes drop twice a week right here on the Bear Bets YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe to stay ahead of the odds, and let's celebrate all of our wins together.